Hey Nesters, welcome back to part 2 of this Salvation Army Thrift Along with Me. If you missed part 1, I will link it at the end of the video so you can just go ahead and click on it when this video is done so you can see what else was at this store today. And yes, let's go ahead and start looking around and seeing what else we can find for hopefully vintage treasure. This platter bowl here is very cool, and it's one of those hand-painted ceramic pieces. I thought it was very beautiful. I've never come across this particular one before, and there were so many divots in it, so I really had to check it over to see if there was any nicks or anything like that if I was going to pick it up to resell. And sure enough, I did find a few little nicks around the edge, so I did leave it there, but I really did think that was super pretty. It was kind of a bummer that it did have some defects. I spied one of these vintage hot plates in the back there. I could see the florals right away and I was trying to dig it out. And unfortunately, it had significant damage to it as well. It was pretty scratched up and it was just so unfortunate. I could not get that. I have picked these up before in the past. Usually they are more country style. They'll have like mom's baked apple pie or something on it. So that was the first time I came across one that was kind of this 1960s floral design. Now, where I'm not selling exclusively on Etsy anymore, I am dabbling in eBay. I do look at things like this that are new and packaged that are kind of quirky. I did check the comps on that while I was in the store. There were a few listed on eBay. They were not going for very much, so I did not get that. But I thought it was really cute. I'm just not a wine drinker, or I don't really drink like that, so I did not get it, but I really like the unicorns. These orange canisters piqued my interest because normally you don't see this color too much in newer decor, even though they looked newer to me, so I wanted to check it out and see what they were exactly. They are on the newer side. They're asking $4 a piece for them. And, I feel like it was something that I could have picked up, and people that do decorate in vintage decor definitely could have blended in nicely with their items if they were a fan of orange, but needless to say, they were the same exact size, and I just didn't feel like I could make enough money off of them to justify, after shipping and all that, so I did not get those. This here is a hand-painted ceramic platter as well. It has this "Give me this day our daily bread" around the edge to it, and I thought it was really nice, so I did pick that up. And I do always try to check out this section to find Pyrex Casseroles, and I don't usually have much luck doing so. I have found a couple of just basic opalware, just the plain white, which are not that exciting, and usually they're the divided dishes at that, so yeah, I didn't find anything in this section today. I was checking out that copper jello mold, and it was kind of flimsy. I didn't know if anyone really would have wanted it. I did really like this popcorn bowl here, but it was incredibly heavy. I could barely lift it with one hand, and yeah, it was a really well-made piece. Someone could enjoy it, but then I was like thinking shipping would kind of be expensive and a nightmare, and also, I was thinking having a movie night, and would I personally really want to grab a popcorn bowl that was that heavy? I was like, nah, I don't think I want to. I don't think I would use it, so I did put it back down, but it was really cool. I really like the looks of this flat-lidded sugar dish. Usually they always have the little knob on it, so that was unusual. I don't think I've ever come across that before. It's always interesting how we are all drawn to specific items. You can see in the back there, I spied this hand-painted strawberry dish. Strawberries, anything with strawberries on it is something I tend to gravitate towards. And I thought this was really pretty. It did have some weird, I don't even know if it's like an oil or some kind of film all around it. I don't know if you can quite make it out. And I was trying to rub it off and it didn't even budge. So I left it behind. It just seemed like it was not gonna ultimately come off. And I figured if I brought it home, I'd have to really scrub it. And the paint, obviously where it was hand painted on the top, it didn't have a glaze on it, would have likely came off from me scrubbing, so I did put it back, but it was really beautiful. As you can see, I lifted this up towards the light because it was such a dark area. I was trying to look for imperfections, and that's when my hand went above the camera and you're like, what is she doing? And I was trying to see all the little scratches and stuff in it, and sure enough, it was kind of not in the greatest condition, even though it was super cool. I saw this clock underneath this bag here, and I thought it was really nice. It is a Americana piece. The handles unfortunately have gotten bent and it was bent pretty badly on the, point to where it probably would have broke because the metal with the clock handle is very thin, and so I did not get that. This lamp here is something that was in my house growing up. They're one of those lamps that you can touch and it changes to 3 different shades, I believe. And as a kid, of course, that just seems magical, right? Just to be able to touch it and not have to turn a switch on. So that was pretty neat back in the 90s. When I see silverware like this, I usually am looking for the starburst pattern. That is something I want to add to my own collection. I'd like to change mine out and go to the starburst. But I find them very randomly. They'll be like a butter knife and a spoon in one area, and then I won't find any for months on end, and then I might find a fork later. So it's a slow process, but it's kind of fun being able to pick them up here and there and see if I can get the full set. Now this here I think is a very beautiful set. It kind of has this baby's breath design to it. It's called Essence. It's put out by Fallsgraph. It's in this beautiful light blue, and they were asking $17 for the entire box of it. Definitely money to be made there. You'd have to probably sell them off individually just to make the most out of it. I feel like a lot of people that would pick up something like this are looking for replacements, not so much trying to start a new collection of dishes. But I mean, they very well could be. It just would be really expensive to ship them all together. So obviously you're going to want to split them up. I really like the saucer here. It didn't have the mug, the little teacup to it, but it was super pretty. It has this sailboat on it and this American eagle on the bottom. I can't remember what it said on the flag there. And it is a Rosina china piece, which tend to sell pretty well. So it does have some scratches throughout the piece, but they were only asking 49 cents for that. I was able to find some Bluebell Goose today to save. I got this sugar and creamer set, and then there is a gravy boat and a base plate. This was on the top shelf, and the next one is down on the shelf below it. You probably saw it in that last clip, and I do look at it eventually here, but I spied these really pretty Corelle cups, and I wanted to check those out. They did have this really pretty, I guess it's a saucer, just a very small berry plate, and it has this really gorgeous silver overlay to it. I'm sure there's a little bit of worth there, but it's just kind of weird to pick up one plate, I feel like, so I didn't get that. And here is my other Bluebell Goose items. So they're a good size, and I don't typically see creamer and sugars that size, so I think it's a really nice set. And then it has this really large gravy boat as well with the base plate. The base plate did have a little bit of scratching on the plate itself. It's just a, wear scratches. It wasn't like fork scratches or anything like that. Very light, and I thought they were really nice, so I did pick those up, of course, to save. I see a lot of this blue transferware Churchill branded, and yeah, I see it often, so I don't know if it's something that people are still really wanting. I have picked it up. I've resold a few pieces here and there, but just more like unusual pieces like a creamer or a gravy boat or things like that. I don't know if they're in that high of demand because like I said, I see them all the time. I don't personally like the fine china designs, and I really like this one, and of course it was made in China. It's not even that old. I really thought the florals on it was quite beautiful. I pulled it out because I want to check out this plate here. This is a design that sells fairly well, and it is called Sierra. And unfortunately, you guys saw the chip on it there. It is an ironstone. And I know some people like to get ironstone that are chipped already, like they prefer it. So I don't know. I always feel weird buying things like that, but people have voice that they like, to pick it up chipped. So maybe it's something I should try and experiment with and see if it does sell that way. One thing I wanted to comment on is when you find items in the thrift store that you can obviously tell came from an antique booth, don't think just because the antique booth people donated it that they won't resell or are not valuable, because antique booths don't get the foot traffic that a thrift store does, honestly, and I find that in my area. And also, a thing with antique booths, when you go there to the antique mall, there are just so many, and it's near impossible to really pick up everything and see everything that's in the store. So, a lot of times things just don't, get the eyes on them that they deserve. So, they're still valuable, there's still money to be made in those items, so don't write them off just because you think that they didn't sell in one place, they might not sell in another. This thrift store always has a pretty tiny section of bags, but they also put a pretty high price on them. I feel like for a thrift store, often around $8.99 a bag, that I find sometimes a little bit higher if they think it is worth more. So I don't usually pick up anything there unless something really catches my eye, but I've yet to. I told myself I wasn't going to look at the cookbooks, but they were right off to the side when I was heading over to the area where they keep all the vintage items. So I did the I'm walking but still looking, I'm walking but still looking, and then I saw this book. This is a pretty cool, it's a newer version. It's a clean eating recipes, and I'm kind of into that healthy food kind of stuff, so I found it to be interesting. On my way over, I met up with the Christmas items again. I did check out the ornaments. They had them priced at 49 cents a piece, and I pulled a couple that I saw. I got that one there, and then what was the other one I got? I think it was a poodle. We'll see here in a second. I think yeah, it's right there on the top. See him in the back there. So I had to pull all those out to get to the poodle, but I did get that poodle in the back there, so I thought he was kind of cool. I did glance at the older books. This one grabbed my attention. This is kind of ironic because it's Curiosity Killed the Cat. But I have several books that I still need to list, so I was good and I didn't pick any up. Though maybe I should have grabbed that one because it just had a very funny, interesting subject matter to the binding. So someone probably would have liked that. Maybe I'll grab it the next time if it's still there. But this side is where they try to keep everything they think is older, and they've kind of, it's almost like their hand selected section. They do put higher prices on items on this side, so even though, yes, it's all vintage, they do have a pretty high price tag on them, so I have to be very selective in what I'm getting for resale purposes. I mean, if it's something I wanted for myself, definitely it was probably going to be a great deal for keeping, but for resale purposes, you really have to be careful with how much you're, putting out for cost. This strawberry jar was pretty cute. It was $5.99. Not too bad of a price. It was, I think it probably was worth that much. And I picked up a few items in that price range. Usually when I go to a thrift store, I like to stay with the items that cost less than $5. Just, as a reseller, it's just kind of a rule of thumb. But yeah, I did pick up a few items that were getting up there in price, and I didn't want to spend too much, in my sourcing. So I had to be a little bit more selective, like I said. Yeah, lots of fun things to look at over here, but I do feel like I'm more in an antique store with antique store prices and not a thrift store as much. And I get it, they're trying to make more money for their charity. Salvation Army is a pretty good charity. I know they do give back to the community quite a bit, so I don't mind paying the higher price for them as much as some other thrift store. But yeah, I think they have some pretty good items donated to them in this location. The other location I go to of a Salvation Army, I feel like they don't get a lot of the vintage decor, and they typically give it to the Goodwill. So that's why I usually go to Goodwill. They had this beautiful set of yellow depression glass. There were several chips in the dessert dishes. So unfortunate. And I found this pelican, this like hand carved pelican. I thought he was super cool. He was about $5, I think, and I did grab him. They were kicking us out. It was closing time. My Salvation Army closes super early. I don't know why. I'm used to the Goodwill staying open until 9, so anytime I go to Salvation Army, I'm always shocked that they are closing. I can stay maybe an hour usually. And so I was doing some speed shopping at the end while there were some customers waiting in line. They only had one cash register, so if you're at the end of the line, you can still shop, right? So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and be sure you are subscribed so you can catch tomorrow's thrift haul of everything I purchased at this Salvation Army today. I found lots of cool vintage goodies. I think you guys will enjoy my finds, and yeah, we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.